Hi, I'm Melissa with A Creative Journey with Melissa, and today I'm going to show you some really cool techniques with ink. I did make a card, but I'm not going to show you step by step exactly what you need to do with this because I think you'll pretty much get the gist. The one thing I did want to show you is that you do use the Coffee is My Liquid Therapy stamp set. It's an awesome stamp set. The link is in the blog so that you can just click on it and check it out. But the coolest thing about this is that we are participating in an awesome blog hop. It is a coffee lovers blog hop. They do it for all the seasons. I love Amy, who is one of the ladies that is in charge of it. She is so sweet and unbelievably talented. There are over 45 sponsors and prizes galore, so please make sure that you check it out, because all you need to do is leave a comment or answer the question on the blog. Trust me, it will be worth it. I myself am giving away 2 prizes on just my blog, and we're also a super sponsor, so we're also giving 2 more stamp sets away, as well as 2 $10 gift certificates for Starbucks. So if you like prizes, this is the one to join. All the information will be on the blog, so make sure that you check out the link that is in the YouTube video information. So let's get started. We have this cute little card right here, and what I did here was I took craft paper, just folded it in half for a card. I used the coffee beans from our Coffee is My Liquid Therapy stamp set. We have this little coffee cup, and obviously it says Liquid Therapy. Then we have some twine right here that I just sewed right in there. And the main thing I want to show you is how I got this really cool color with this texture. I want to give you a close-up so you can see the texture on it. And the reason why it's cool to see the texture is because I used an embossing folder. I love embossing folders. They're a really great way to get different textures, different looks for cards. And if you're really in a creative stump, which for some reason I was for the past couple days, it really, really helps. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these 4 inks. We have tea dye, we have pine needles, fired brick, and we also have spiced marmalade. Now these 4 are not necessarily what you have to use for your creation. You can use them for anything. I was trying to get a really nice fall background. The problem with that was orange wasn't doing it for me, brown wasn't doing it for me, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to create my own, and that's why I have this project. So what we have here is we're going to keep these little inks right out. I'm going to put this aside. We have the paper that you'll need. Now this here, I pre-cut the paper so that you have plenty, or so that I have plenty in case I make a mistake, but I also pre-cut some because sometimes you get some really cool looks with different ways of doing what I'm going to show you. So I like to have a little bit of extra paper in case I find a really great design and I want to save it for another creation that I may be making, or change my mind and use it for this one. So we have a little mister here. You can use just a regular water bottle. I'll show you the one I also have. I think I bought this at Walmart or Target or whatever, and it sprays as well, but for the purposes of demonstrating, this is much easier and user-friendly right now, so I wanted to use this one. Okay, so all we're going to do is you're going to need your die cut machine so that you can run your embossing folder through it. But right now I'm going to show you the different things that I did. So there's 3 different ways that you can get a look with your embossing folder. I'm sure there's more, but there's 3 that I'm going to show you today. Okay. So if you look at your embossing folder here, you have two different styles here. You have the deboss and the emboss. The emboss is when it pushes out, as you can see here, and the deboss is when it is actually pushed in. So you'll get more of the flat surface, and the part that's actually that would impress there normally is not, so that would stay whatever color your cardstock is. Whereas in this one, if you put the ink on top of here, whatever's sticking out, which is the embossed part, will show up color, and the part that is not embossed or flat will not show any color. Okay, so here I did 2 examples so you can see what I'm talking about. For this part here, which is the debossed part, it is here and you have some, I'm sorry, I showed you the wrong one. How embarrassing. Let's try that again. Okay, so the flat part here is where you would ink, and this here is what it would look like after you were finished. Okay? All of the ink goes on the flat part, and the pushing of the area is actually white. Okay? So it doesn't pick up any of that. Now on this part here, all the part where it's pushed up, this actually has all the ink, and then the other side does not. So this is where you would get that look. Okay? So when I was doing this, I loved the colors, but they weren't really what I was looking for, which is why you see that I did that. So with that, I wanted to show you how I made this. It's really simple. All I did was literally add a little water. That was it. There's a lot of things you can do with water, and sometimes even salt. I'll have to do an example of that sometime. But you need to make sure that the inks that you're using are water soluble, because if you use alcohol markers, it's not going to matter because water doesn't do anything to alcohol markers. So you want to make sure that you are using water soluble water soluble ink. Try that 2 times fast. I can't. But anyway, so if you are using alcohol markers, however, you could use alcohol versus the water. You would probably get a very similar effect, or you may get some running or whatever, but it's a really cool effect too, and I'll do a video of that too. At any rate, so let's get started. I'm going to put these aside and put this aside too. So all I did was just basically throw some ink on my embossing cartridge, my embossing folder, and I just went with it. I didn't have really a rhyme or reason. I started here with the dark, and this one is, like I said, tea dye, so I'm just going to put a little bit of this here, and then a little bit of pine needle. Now I would suggest you protect your work surface. I don't, because this is a laminate part, so I can wipe it off. It's not a problem. And this may be a little bit too much green. Now I did add red to this because I used to live in the Midwest, and I really loved the way that the colors of the fall leaves and things like that would actually sometimes show up burgundy and red, and I love that. I actually miss that quite a bit, especially since I live in California and everything is brown. So with that, I try to add as much as I can. I'm going to add a little bit more of the tea dye, and then I am going to switch those so I can have that right. I'm going to add the brick red. I usually do the red at the end because I just want to highlight little edges here. And again, you don't have to do this. You can do it however you like, however you see as your creation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these inks aside because I'm going to need my embossing machine here. So we're going to pull that up. Okay. And if you're not familiar with an embossing machine, this is a Sizzix. There's a number of different ones on the market. Now I'm going to show you the dry version first, and then I'm going to show you the emboss, the deboss, and I'm going to show you the watered version too. Okay. So this here is the deboss, and the reason why I say that is because it's not pushing up, it's pushing down. So the flat surface, which there's a lot of on this, has the ink, and you'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm just taking a little piece of paper right here on the side. I'm going to put that right on there, and because it's a cute little design, it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. Sometimes you have like borders and things like that. I'm not going to be real fussy about that. Okay, so I'm going to close that. I can show you this way. That way you can see what it looks like, or similar to what it will look like. I'm going to take my platforms. I'm going to sandwich them so that I have a platform on the bottom, platform on the top. And don't worry, you see all these marks? That just means they've been loved a lot, and I use them over and over again. So I'm going to put this right here on my platform, and we're going to run it through, and we just turn the handle, and then this is the look we have. And that's just from ink, from me inking it. That's the look we got from doing that. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to give you a closer look of those once I do the other two. So I'm going to do those real quick so you can see how I did those. Okay, I'm going to wipe off the area of where I actually put the ink on. So I'm going to use my big spray bottle for this. And really, I think what I'm going to do instead, this is a great way to show you, I think instead of actually wiping it off, I'm going to put a little piece of paper in it. Because like I said before, sometimes you'll see some really cool color combinations come out, and I love it. So I'm going to use that. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Look how pretty that is. So I'll have another little piece of paper. Not like I need any more, truthfully. So let's see here. I'm going to run that right through. I already sandwiched it. And you'll see here that the water, some of it came through, some of it stayed, some of it didn't, and I'm good with that. I love the way it looks. I love the little outline part of it. I'm wiping off the excess because you don't want it to come all over the place and get everything icky. Now the one thing I will say is anytime you use water, you want to make sure that your paper dries, okay? But look at that. It even has color on the back and the front. I love the way that came out. I just love it. Can you tell? Anyway, I'm going to put this on a little mat here so that I don't get anything else wet, so I can show it to you in a little bit. So all I did was, you can take, like these are Windex wipes, you can take any wipe, you can take a paper towel, you just wipe it right off, and because it's a water-based ink, it comes off right away, it's no problem. You might have a little bit of residue, you just take another wipe and wipe it again. Sorry if the camera's wiggling, I think I'm getting a little bit overzealous with my cleaning. Okay. So then I'm going to ink this puppy up again, and we're going to put this aside just for a second. And actually I think I got a little bit of ink on my platform, so I'm going to wipe those off. Sometimes that happens. It might squirt through because there's a little bit more wet or a little bit more water than you think. Okay, you just wipe those off. Like I said, it's really not a problem, especially when you have water-based ink. It's a piece of cake because all you got to do is just wipe them off. So with that, we're going to ink the other side. So now we're going to ink the side that's embossed. It's the part that sticks up, okay? So let me ink that real quick. I'm just going to, let me move this so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll bring it back up. Okay, so, and again, you can do this with any water-based ink. It should not be a problem at all. There's a little piece of the ink pad there. See, there's little pieces here. I'm gonna pick those up. Otherwise, those will actually change the look of the creation or the ink that you're gonna see on your paper. Put a little bit of orange in there. And you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to hurt your ink pad. The one thing I would suggest is that with this one, whoops, as you can see, I did use the orange and then I used dark again. It will show up on your ink pad, so I don't suggest you do that. I have two of these, so I'm not as fussy. But as you can see, if you just wiped it off, although it looks like it's going to be a problem, it really isn't. Let me switch it over so you can see too. Still the same color, so you're good. Okay? Just so you know if that ever happens. It's happened to me before. So I'm going to put a little bit more orange in there. And like I said, there's really no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. Just kind of do what I think looks good. And then I go from there. So I'm going to add a little bit more tea dye, and then we'll add the red last. I don't know what it is, but there's some reason I just like to do that last. So we'll do a little bit of red. Sorry for the little banging there. And sometimes you like to do a little darker, sometimes you like to do a little lighter. Try to make sure that you don't have any pieces of the pad because these actually do sometimes fray. Looks good to me. So I'm going to take this little piece here and put it aside. But like I said, it actually worked out okay. And a little mister we can put right there. Stay there, mister. Okay, so we're going to put the piece of paper on here. And again, this is the emboss side. It's poking up, so it will give you a poked up look. I'm sorry, a poked in look. This is, you know, I've said this backwards, I think, every time. When it's poked up into it, it is debossed. When it's poked out, it is embossed. So I will go through that one more time because I think I've been saying it backwards. I apologize. Let's go here. Okay, so we have the embossing folder. We have the platforms. We sandwich and turn that handle and make sure it gets rolling there. And that is done. So see, this part here, which is sticking out, that's the emboss side, but I colored the debossed side. So notice that there's not a whole bunch of color there. So this is the deboss side, okay? Emboss is up and out, and deboss, which is basically negative, D usually means negative, or is down, okay? So last but not least, I'm going to put this on the side, because this is really the reason why I wanted to show this to you. And I didn't want to not show you the other things for fear that you might want to know that too. So why not? We can do this. So I'm going to take a little water again. I don't think I'm going to do it this time because I think it's a little bit less ink here on here. Let's see. Clean this off. Try to get a little bit more water on there. Now if you're using, if you're creating something and you need a lot of water, that's where one of these water bottles here would be very handy. But if you're using it just for the purposes of what I'm going to show you in a minute, you don't need a whole bunch of water. It's not necessary. So let's see here. I'm going to clean this up, make sure it's in the grooves. Okay. Now let's see. That looks pretty good. Okay. I'll just wipe this edge real quick. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the ink and we're going to put it on the side where it will emboss the imprint, but the color will be a lot more obvious because the embossed part will be white because you're just laying the ink on the top. Okay, so we're going to start here. Put a little brown, and it's still a little wet, so that works out really well. It'll slide a little bit better. Put a little bit of orange on here. Let's do the orange here. And then, now this one you don't have to put as much ink on because you're going to be adding water to it, so that will change the dynamic of what the colors look like. But I wanted to make sure that I used colors that were very obvious so that you could see it. And this would be really cool to do like with silver and blue for the holidays, for the winter months. This would be really neat to do for Halloween. Orange and purple, which I originally was going to do and changed my mind. But there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. So I'm going to add a little bit more brown just over the top, just to mute it a little bit. Okay, now this is the magic. This is the part that is, if not my favorite, very close to my favorite. I love this part. It's really neat. So all you need to do is after you put your water-based ink, you're just going to spray it. Now I am using just plain regular 80-pound cardstock. Nothing fancy. You can get it at Walmart, Target. Georgia Pacific is actually what it is. I use Georgia Pacific for a lot of things. I even use Georgia Pacific for my chameleon markers and my Copic markers. As long as you're not saturating the paper with alcohol ink, you're good. There won't be a lot of bleeding, but you do need to be careful because a lot of the paper that you use for Copic markers or for water, you need to make sure that you don't get a lot of ripple effect or something like that because you don't want it to look like different on your creation. So what we're going to do here is just squirt, little bitty squirts. Now I just love the look of what the dots look like. Now the cool thing about this distress ink is not something that you want to use if you want detail of the perfect image. You do not want to use distress ink if you want just a clean crisp image, because Distress ink by design has a little bit of a distress look to it when it dries. So you don't want to use this type of ink if you're looking for the clean, perfect look. But I will tell you that this is going to look amazing, and I love it, and it's very simple, and you could do a whole bunch of these for your Christmas cards or your Hanukkah cards or your Kwanzaa cards or holiday cards, birthday cards, whatever you choose. Are you ready? Because I'm really excited. Can you tell? Okay, so we're going to just put this right here. We'll close it right up. Put these out of the way. And I'm going to flip that over so you can see that. Put this out of the way. We don't need these papers anymore. And then I'm going to run it through the embosser. Now, I don't know if you realize this or not, but with this, you can run it through either way. You don't have to run it one way or the other with the embossing machine. You're welcome to do both sides. So that's what I'm going to do, is just do it on this side. Okay? So there's a lot of water on this. So I'm just going to run it through, and it may squeeze out a little bit once it goes through, and that's okay. I do not mind. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I think, is just stick in another piece of paper. Oh gosh, that looks great. I just love it. I'm going to show you that in a second, but I'm going to take another piece of paper just for the heck of it. Maybe add a little bit more water to it, see if there's any other colors in there. Not a lot, but there's some. So let's see, we'll stick it right on that side. Close it up. Put that right there. And put this right there. This is what you call trying to raise your stash amount. So if you're creating something and you really are looking for a cool look, not a super obvious look, this is where you would come in and make sure that you do a few extras so you can keep that in your stash. Okay. Now again, there's a lot of water on this. Like I said before, don't be surprised if there is. So what we're going to do is take this here off. There's just a little bit of color on it on both edges. That'd be really neat for like the side of something, just to add, and then maybe put a sentiment or a drawing or something like that. It'd be great. So I'm going to put that on the side. This is dripping, so I'm going to wipe this off. So you just wipe it off. Now, after you use this, I would suggest you go into the bathroom and rinse it off with water. Warm water. You can even use warm water and some soap just to make sure that you've got it all off. Now, if you're using alcohol for some reason, I would not suggest using alcohol on these. Well, you can, however, you'd have to clean it with the alcohol cleaner, or an alcohol, like a Copic fluid or alcohol. But the problem is that alcohol by design dries quickly, so it may not actually work the way you want it to. You can do it with alcohol inks that are more in the bottle versus a Copic marker, and those are really fun to play with. That's another video. Gosh, I've thought of 3 videos already today. So much time. No, not enough time. Never. So I'm going to put this aside, clean that up, put that right there, and wipe this off. And this is what we have. So the creations I made that you saw are these and these. These are the extras that I made with just the extra when I was cleaning it off. This was the first one that I did, and this is the second one. So you could even see that there's some colors here. This would be really neat to put a cute little sentiment and make it a card. But anyway, I want to show you real quick. This is more of a dry look. This also is more of a dry look. More of the white than there is the color. And then this is more of the watercolor look. As you can see, there's a lot more water to this, and it's a lot more blended. Okay? So I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial today. I enjoyed doing it. I love creating. If you can think of any ideas that you'd like to see on here, I gave myself a few ideas, and hopefully I've inspired you to think of some yourself. So make sure you leave a comment on the YouTube on our YouTube channel, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube and of course our blog. And if you want to win some prizes, I'm telling you, you need to go to that blog and make sure you check it out, because It is an amazing blog hop. So I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm so glad that you came on a creative journey with Melissa. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.